I have found a way for me that unlocks creative flow in 5 minutes. No hacks, no gimmicks, and it actually works. And here's the thing, I've learned this through years of practice in writing, in reading books on the topic, and watching videos on the topic, but I've boiled all of that down into this single video. So by the end of this, you will understand why it works, how to implement it into your life to make you more productive, hit your creative flow much faster, and enjoy the writing process and get more writing done. Let's dive in. My name is Colby. I'm an aspiring fantasy and science fiction author. I've been writing about 5 years, but the last 3 years I've taken it much more seriously, and I've written about 3 books in that time frame. Now, that being said, I'm very busy. I work 40 hours on a regular job, I'm married, I have a lot of friends, a lot of other hobbies, not just this YouTube channel and writing, that I pursue. And I still manage to write fairly prolifically. And it's because I have honed in that skill of creating creative flow. So let's take a second to define what that is. Creative flow is that magical mental state where everything just clicks. Words are pouring out, ideas are flowing in. You don't notice the passage of time, but you could write endlessly and it feels great. It's those times where you write for a while and then you step back and you're like, whoa, I just wrote 2,000 words in an hour. That is creative flow. For writers, hitting creative flow is the difference between slogging through a paragraph and writing an entire chapter in a single session. The good news, you don't have to wait for inspiration to hit you to get into this creative flow. It is a trainable skill. And honestly, it starts with a pretty ridiculously easy daily ritual. Here's the big idea. Creative flow doesn't start right when you sit down to write. It starts for me the night before. For my life, my best time to write is if I get up an hour earlier than I would normally. That's time that I have just to myself. So, what this looks like is the night before, I am prepping. I'm getting my clothes ready. I'm getting my lunch ready. So that way when I wake up, all I have to do is shower, get dressed, and then it's time to write. That clears my brain from any stresses about the morning routine. So whatever time you're going to write or whatever system you need to set up, have something before, ideally the day before, so you can clear your mind of all those thoughts and just focus on the writing. But there's still more to it before you actually sit down. It's called priming. You want to create a repeatable process that you can do again and again in a very similar way so your brain is primed to go into that state once you hit that position. For example, for me, I sit in the exact same chair every morning when I write. I turn on the exact same lamp to the exact same setting every single morning when I write. I put in the same headphones. I put on the same or very similar playlist. All of those things prime my brain to get ready to write. I only sit in that chair when I'm writing. I do not sit in that chair unless I am writing, because that is what I am training my brain to do. Now, when it comes to the actual writing, when I sit down, here's what I do. I got that music playing. That's when the timer starts. I go to either the same chapter that I have been working on, or if I'm starting a new chapter, the previous one, and for 2 minutes, I will read what I have written up to that point. That gets my mind back into that world, ready to go. I force myself not to edit any of that because there might be a mistake in there. I just read it as it is, and I get to the point where I'm at. For those next 2 minutes, I am writing from that POV, something that's not necessarily related to this chapter. Maybe it is, but I know I'm not going to keep it. I'm just getting into that character's voice. For example, and something I like to pair with it, if I'm writing fantasy, I will have that character do something with the magic, so that way I get the magic mechanics into there and into my brain. And then in that last minute, all I'm doing is taking what I've just written that I know I'm not going to keep, I delete it, I get ready, I take a big deep breath, and then it's go time. And guys, I know that sounds simple, but it works. I have some data to prove it. So this is a recent book that I have been working on, been kind of on and off of this book. The point is, these squares show how many words I've written that day. I want to show you some days in a row that I was writing before I started implementing this specific routine into my life. So we've got, oh, and by the way, these are about an hour worth writing sessions. So in an hour, I wrote 690 words, 253, 36, 825, 848. Those are respectable numbers. That 26 is pretty low. I don't know what I was doing that day, but those are respectable numbers. Now, let's look at a week where I was really zoned into that creative flow routine. We've got 1,000, 2,500, 1,043, 2,000, 2,000, 2,000. Those are an hour sessions. I'm not trying to brag here. I'm just explaining that when you sit down, it only takes you 5 minutes to get into that state. It's a game changer. That hour feels like 3 hours. So this is just showing you that it is definitely possible, and it can make a big difference in your writing. Now, if you want to take this even further, here's some additional tips that you can do. Limit your distractions. Some days I don't even take my phone to that chair because I don't want anything distracting me. I will turn on Do Not Disturb onto my laptop because I have a Mac, so that way no one can contact me in that brief hour that I have. If you have family, let them know that you're going to be writing for this dedicated time. My wife knows that and she respects that, so she won't interrupt me unless it's an emergency during that time. Another one is to incorporate movement. I've talked about this before, but going on walks is when I come up with some of my best ideas because blood is flowing. For me, I'm not moving before I write. I wake up, shower, get dressed, write. But if you want to go on a walk before, or if you want to go to the gym, if you're not going to be writing first thing in the morning, it helps a lot. When I do write in the afternoon, if I'm active right beforehand, I am thinking much more clearly and creativity is flowing better. And this last extra tip, if you want to take it even further, is to practice mindfulness. Not necessarily meditation, but if you sit with your work, once you've got everything ready and primed, and you take 1 more minute to just breathe deeply and think about what you're going to be writing, you'd be surprised how much that can help. But listen, creative flow isn't just for the lucky or for the inspired. It is a skill. I know you can train it because I have. And you don't need to overhaul your life. This is just some extra steps you take the day before and the day of, consistently over time, that's going to help you get into it faster. So here's my challenge. For the next week, I want you to implement this into your life. And then I want you to track it and see your word count that week compared to previous weeks. Let me know in the comments how that goes for you. Do you feel like it made a difference? You might not hit that 5 minutes immediately, but by the end of the week, I think you'd be surprised how much easier it is to get into that state. Oh, and while you're here, if you found this video helpful, consider subscribing. I'm going to post a lot more videos on this channel about writing while being a very busy person and still making it a sustainable and fulfilling, fun lifestyle. If you liked this video, I have another one where I talk about the specific book that really helped me hone this in. I'll put that at the end of this. It's a book called Deep Work by Cal Newport. It's great. I highly recommend it if you're trying to take back control of your time for writing specifically. Alright guys, that's it for this video. I hope you got something from this. I'm really excited to hear what you guys have to say in the comments about your implementation of this. You've got stories to tell, and the world deserves to hear them. So, keep writing.